What's going on, Soul Tribe? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to my channel, Alchemist. Justin here, and bringing another little nugget to add to the Soul Tribe archive. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about Mars and Aries in the ninth house. And I'm like, look at Mars, divinely guided. This is a dope placement for Mars. Now, when you talk about that martial planet, the nature of Mars is to drive us into action. Mars is where we experience our desires, our passions, where the energy's at, the force is at, and the courage to face the challenges in life. But the tricky thing is that Mars is one of the malefics. It's the lesser malefic. So Mars sometimes can be Mars is like a hot, cutting, dry energy, quick action, quick to maybe aggression. But when Mars is worked with constructively, again, can lead to that courage, that strength, that the will to just to create and to be. So just and I find too, if you have a day chart versus a night chart, Mars might be a little bit trickier to work with in a day chart versus a night chart. You can work a little bit easier with Mars there, so that may be something to observe to that relationship with Mars. Now let's talk about Aries, because this is why this is such a dope place for Mars is because Aries is where it is one of its home signs. This is where Mars finds its domicile. And when you have a planet in its domicile, that just means that its expressions work very comfortably within the expressions of this sign. And Aries is the cardinal fire sign, and they're active or yang in nature. So Aries takes that martial energy, that will to be, and just does. The cardinal energy is the initiator. And that's like you can find where Aries energy, it's not really hard for them to be themselves. And I'm just talking about the Aries energy just in general. There's just that because the fire energy is that will, to the true will. And so I find that Aries can be a very prolific sign. One, very self-starters, innovators, very fast mind, but yeah, a lot of energy that can come with Aries. And then you talk about the ninth house. Now, this is one that can be a very spiritual house. This is known in traditional astrology. Or ancient astrology, this was the house of God. And some of the themes that this house, and it's one of the Caden houses. And some of the themes that this house covers is going to be like your spirituality. This can be religion. This can be higher knowledge or higher education. This can be foreign travel. This can be even like foreign cultures, long distance travel more so. And this could be even like there's even like visions and divination, and there's astrology and or oracles, dream work and dream interpretations, things like prophets and things like that. That's going to be some of the things that even like law, that's going to be another thing that the ninth house covers. So when you're working with this placement, a couple of things to consider. Well, one, you don't have to look to who rules this place, but you'd have a Leo rising by whole sign, but Mars is going to be in charge of this house and also of your fourth house, which is the house of the home, parents, family, things along those lines. So, some interesting things that I would start with right off the bat, talking with this placement, is thinking about what is your relationship with obviously like spirituality. Is your religion, your whatever practice that you do, how does it stir up your energies? Does it drive you every day? Is it something that you look forward to? Do you have a regular kind of spiritual practice, whether that be prayer, maybe that's some sort of meditation, maybe you're pulling a couple tarot cards, maybe you're doing like some, maybe casting some coins for the I Ching, whatever that maybe a little geomancy, seeing what the clouds are saying. But whatever that is, I could see this Mars having at its core, having a very deep touch with that sort of divine energy, being able to really channel spirit and have it where it's like really kind of be, like I said, a divinely guided Mars. So this could be one we're working on training, like your intuition could be another really great thing. Again, doing some sort of like mystical practices. But, Mars is the malefic. So I would say even thinking about maybe there's how has religion been, because this could be where maybe if Mars is in like maybe receiving like a tough aspect from Saturn or kind of casting one, or maybe this is like a day chart, something like that, where maybe there was a lot of aggression maybe around religion, possibly, or even spirituality, whatever that looks like. Maybe it happened in the home space. I would see how that has shaped your life thus far and how that has changed your beliefs. And that's something that maybe every Mars return, that's like every 2 years or so, check in with your beliefs. Maybe if you haven't been feeling moved for a while, because I think that having no sort of calling will just lead to this sort of listlessness. This could be kind of feeling like aimless, kind of wandering if you don't have something, like some sort of like higher energy, whatever you refer to that as, to look to, especially when you're maybe going through like, kind of those tougher transits in life there. But I can see this one too, this Mars being very, in one way to maybe even get inspired, maybe again exploring different cultures, traveling to different places, going to places that you've not been before. You might even find yourself maybe even living abroad for a while, considering that the home space flows to this foreign culture. Maybe you happen to, yeah, maybe just stay somewhere over abroad for a while there. Maybe you happen to buy a home abroad. That could be something where maybe you get in, do something in real estate. Maybe you do something in churches. This could be where I could definitely see this as a very fervent, very fervent pastor, pope. Why not? But I do think that Mars would do very well in like going for, of course, going for different places, just of course for maybe a little leisure. But I think exploring like, maybe the history or the like sort of like the mystical sites, and see how that energizes you, how that what moves through you when you're experiencing those things. Who knows what sort of maybe revelations that may come to you, what sort of ideas come to you, and things like that. Doing any sort of like higher education, maybe go to school abroad. That could be another thing. Maybe you want to go to, maybe you find, I mean, it depends on what you're going for, but I think that would be something really kind of neat to explore too. And even if you're not going to some sort of facility, doing something where you're just like maybe doing like courses at home, possibly doing your own sort of like personal course of study. But I think that any way that you're able to expand yourself and have that higher energy is able to communicate through you in different ways, the more just tools you have in your tool belt. And I think that'll help you move through life in a way that I think would be, again, very in alignment. I see that this placement could be, and of course you got to, pay attention to other factors here, but I'm trying to think what else would be really neat for that placement. I would just say even to, again, just paying attention to, because I could see this maybe being a bit very fervent Mars. I wouldn't say that you be mindful about like maybe forcing your beliefs on others, or having others even again force their beliefs on you. But I think that there is a being, just keeping an open mind. You don't have to subscribe to any sort of things, but be aware of the sort of cultures that are out there that are different from yours. And I think that you may even find some fascinating little nuggets that you may want to incorporate into your spiritual practice. But yeah, I would say just, yeah, paying attention to, I think, just to how, yeah, I think a big one is just like how certain, because when the spirit moves you, you want to be mindful of just like what's driving the vehicle. I would, yeah, just kind of keep that in mind. And maybe even like keeping some sort of like divining journal there, like maybe like a dream journal, things like that. Again, if you find yourself having a lot of, maybe just a lot of active imagination, things along those lines, again, getting some sort of inspirations. But, and even kind of last thing here too, again, when we're talking about law in this house, that may be something where you may want to look into, maybe going into some sort of like, the justice system, something like that. Maybe want to be a lawyer, a judge, someone where you're passing, helping to bring some sort of equality, someone who will take charge to fight for the underdog and things like that. So that, I think, could be a very beneficial way of working with Mars as well. But maybe even again be some sort of like leader in that regard, or whatever that's looking like. But you definitely need those would just be some basic things that I would talk about with someone with this placement. You definitely need the whole picture of the chart to see how this is working. But if you have this placement, I'd love to share some revelations with us. Bring down your tablets. But definitely leave a comment down in the comment section and tell us how you've been working with this placement. But if you want to dig a little bit more into this placement or any other points of your chart, there are the services that I provide down in the description box, and my email's down there if you have any sort of questions for me. And then also, if you want to follow the transits that are going on weekly on this same channel, it's on the weekly transits tab. And I do just weekly videos that come out every Mercury day, that's on a Wednesday. And it's just talking about where the planets are, where the transiting Saturn is coming into your 9th house. And this is a dope time for Leo risings, I think, with what Saturn's bringing. But This may be where you decide to buckle down and, maybe take a course of study, maybe when you get to that conjunction there with your Mars placement. So that's something to get some eyes on there. Big Papa's going to be squaring that. So definitely going to be a lot of growth, maybe some isolation. So if you definitely want to see what's going on with that, check that out. And then also if you want to work with the lunar shenanigans, down in the description box is a link for my other channel, The Charity and Friends. And I release videos every time the moon changes signs, and it talks about the lunar astrology, and I do a tarot card reading and I Ching reading at the end. So look at that, more extra mysticism for you. But that's all I got for you there. So until next time, stay mindful out there. Keep raising that vibration through the roof, and I will catch you on the next one later.